I was going to make 3 videos, but I only have an hour, and I kind of wanted to get over a lot of stuff, so I'm going to combine the 2. So, every morning, I walk into the kitchen, and I wake up before my grandparents. My grandma or grandpa goes outside, and they bring the newspaper in, and the newspaper is always full of lots of violence, lots of pointless bullshit that fixes the world in no possible way and benefits you in no possible way. And I always ask, how does that help? And they just say, well, and they give a bullshit answer that just never makes sense. Like, well, some people need it. And I'm like, no one needs that. Some girl was raped by her stepfather. I'm like, well, we all needed that. It's like, what good did that do? Lots of girls in the South, or anywhere, were raped by their stepfather. That happens, I'm sorry, I'm not being insensitive, I'm being honest as fuck. A lot. And it doesn't get reported. But that happens a lot, to a lot of people. Why is it important when it happens to one person, and then it's big? It doesn't make sense. Oh, it happened to one person out of like 1 million. Who cares? There are people dying in other countries of starvation. But who cares? It happens to a lot of people. What makes this one person so special? Let's get over a bunch of other things. Here's another dumbass article. An old woman was kicked out of her house after not paying rent for 6 months. My grandma's like, what terrible people they are. So I just bluntly said, no. The old woman wasn't paying her rent for 6 months. She needed to be kicked out, and she was 101. She needed to be put in a home. But my grandma's like, well, she's been living in that house for 60 years. And I'm like, and it's time to take her out of that house. Because obviously she can't live anymore. And then at the end of the article, my grandma's like, she died. And I'm like, okay. Well, it was kind of time. She was 101. And like I said before, with these articles, I'm not being insensitive. I'm being fucking honest. Don't put these articles, like I said before, neuromarketing is when they hook an EKG machine to your brain and they put certain images up to your face, and when your brain reacts to those images, they know what kind of things to put in news articles, in TV and video games, because they know what will make your brain react to those certain things. And death, in particular, makes your testosterone rise and makes your libido rise. Strangely enough. Very strangely enough. So, your hormones rise when you see death. So, they put lots of death in the newspaper. So you get interested. Your brain gets interested when you see death in the newspaper. Why do you think they put so much death and violence in the newspaper? They want you to keep reading. So, that's not all that happened. I wrote it on a piece of paper yesterday, and I put it in the washing machine, which was really dumb. No, I put it in the washing machine. Those are 2 articles I could basically remember. But mostly the thing is, if you watch YouTube videos, has people go into other countries and show you hands-on what's actually happening. And people show you what the presidents, what the other countries are actually saying, what the truth. But old people in particular read the fucking newspaper, which says all this useless bullshit. This person died. This person was murdered. this is happening. This is happening in your community. And even they give outdated things. One of the things that they gave that I couldn't report or make a video on because my grandparents were home for like 3 days was that Google and Facebook track you. That started like 3 to 4 years ago, or I don't know. That already happened. And my grandparents were like, that's illegal. They're going to get arrested for doing that. And I'm like, you guys are so old. You don't know how anything in this society works. You know that we're being tracked like anywhere we go by cameras everywhere? They don't know things like that. Old people don't know anything. And if you tell them, they get afraid. Last night, get this. I'm big on health and natural fixes. I like fixing things, not temporarily fixing things with drugs. Fuck you, pharmaceutical industry. So for 2 years, I've been telling my grandparents, don't drink out of plastic water bottles. Do not put them in the refrigerator. Do not fill them with hot water. And do not reuse plastic water bottles because they have BPA in them or EPA, poison. The poison leaks into the water if the water bottle gets cold or hot. And there's poison in the water when you first open it because it's in a factory sitting in a cold factory. Then it gets hot when the sun's out. So no matter what, in those shitty bottles that you can squeeze because the plastic is so thin, there's always going to be poison in those bottles. So last night when my grandma said, I just got an email from a friend that you shouldn't use plastic bottles. So I was like, really? Really? I literally said, I've been saying that to you for 2 years. And she's like, I know. I realize that. And I'm like, really? And so I said, is it because of the poison that's in the water? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. So you don't mind drinking poison. And she's like, it's because of the bacteria. So I almost went off. You know what my grandparents do? They wash dishes and then they put them away. They don't dry them. They don't leave them out so they dry in the sun, like the sun comes through the windows and just dries them. They don't wash them off with a towel or dry them. They put them away, and especially with water containers, they screw the container top on with water inside. So I'm like, do not fucking tell me anything about bacteria. You don't know shit about bacteria. You guys love mold and bacteria. You guys create it. If you go in our cabinet, I don't use any of the water containers because they all have black mold growing inside. That's fucking disgusting. My step-grandpa doesn't throw sponges away. They have black mold caked on them, and he washes them in the washer. When they're washed and when they're dried, they still have little bits of black mold on them because you don't reuse them. You don't. You buy new ones that cost $1 at the dollar store. It's not very hard to spend $1 to buy sponges. And you get a pack of 10 of them. You get 10 sponges. And you can cut them in half and have 20 sponges for $1. $1. Are you really that much of a cheap ass to reuse a sponge for a year because you don't want to spend $1? But you know, me saying any of this, they'll just be like, rude, rude noises, rude voices. So, let's get on. Let's get on with this. I want to talk about the psychology thing. We already know that we can all learn way more actual information from the internet And people who don't believe that will always say, how do you know the information on the internet's true? Some of it's not valid, because some people just make shit up. But things from actual proof, when there's proof in front of you in a YouTube video, when they're actually in the place and when politicians admit shit in front of you, that's valid information. If that doesn't make you believe it, then you're retarded beyond belief. If you just read it in a newspaper and it says it's fact and you believe that, then you just need to grow a brain because you don't have one. That's just believing shit that's just there. Okay, we're going to go on to the psychology thing. 3 days ago, I was at another college that I've never been to. And some kid walked up to me. He was an adult. He was a creepy dude. And he asked me, you should sign up for classes. Do you want to sign up for classes? He tossed a pamphlet in front of my face, and I looked through, and I'm like, maybe I should sign up for philosophy classes, because I've always wondered. Then I asked my grandmother what a philosophy class is like, because she took 2 of them when she went to college. And she went to college when she was an adult, not when she was younger. So she told me exactly what philosophy is like. And I always wondered why there's certain subjects in philosophy. I'm like, there shouldn't be certain subjects. If it's philosophy, if you don't know what philosophy is when you get a group of very intellectual people and you just discuss random things and the possibilities of those things. Like dinosaurs. Well, the possibility of dinosaurs, they could have come from this, or they could have come from this. Well, maybe there's no right answer. There's no exact answer. But apparently, in philosophy in colleges, there is a right answer, which isn't right. You're not supposed to have a right answer. And you read books, which I wasn't expecting. In philosophy, you were never supposed to read books. In the old time, alchemy, those were the first philosophers. They were the first, alchemists, which was known as witchcraft to some religious people, were known as the first philosophers. They wondered, they wondered there had to be more to life, more to these things. They tried to find immortality, and they tried different scientific things, and they wondered. They were thinkers. What do you do in college philosophy? You're thrown a book in front of your face. You're told to read it, and then you say, well, what are the possibilities of this book? What are the possibilities of only this book? And then you say the possibilities, and they say that's wrong. They don't say, well, maybe that's right. Maybe there are possibilities of that. They're not open-minded. Now, I've never taken a philosophy class, and it could have just been that teacher when my grandma took it. And my grandma's a very judgmental person, and if she doesn't like someone, she'll talk lots of bad stuff about them behind their back. I know this because I grew up with her. I do. And if you say you don't, Grandma, you're in denial. Very big denial. And you know what you'll do? You'll tell this to someone else, which is exactly my point. Anyways, so I don't know. If you've taken a philosophy class, tell me in the description. Just do. I'm well open-minded to hear what it's about. But I'm just saying, in the medieval times and way back then, philosophy was about learning new possibilities, learning from those possibilities, and thinking of what they can do to improve those things. People who wrote scriptures and poems and stuff like that. They wondered. They learned from. They just learned. They were thinkers. Sometimes I like to think of myself as a philosopher because I like wondering and I ask why. That's about it. I'm going to end it there and I'm going to eat this carrot. Before I go, don't believe everything you read in a newspaper because most likely it's all false. And do your own research on things before you just make assumptions and say it's fact. Like in this video, in no way did I say that anything was just fact. I said do your own research. Go online, go on YouTube, and there's Vice News on YouTube where they go into other countries and they show both sides. They show our country and they show actual other countries that are being attacked by our country. They show what's going on outside of our little bubble we call the USA. It's good to see other people's lives, not just ours. Think of it that way. Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.